Hi guys, Id3ntyD here from FillwithSkill.com with a long overdue video for strategy in Shards of War, and we're going to talk a little bit about the meta, my personal strategy, and what works, what not. So here we go.
Because winners are sexy.
So, when we're trying to discover a strategy for Shards of War, I think the first step we need to do is to talk about objectives. The ultimate objective in every Shards of War game is definitely to kill the enemy HQ, because this is a winning condition. You do this, you win the game, and this is what you want. So this is something you always have to have in your head when you're creating a strategy, and everything you do in regards to build up your strategy, plan, take sentinels, divide lanes, whatever you do, there's always this aim to kill the enemy HQ. And I'm stressing this out because this is really important, because sometimes people focus on killing instead of winning. So remember that. Mind blown. Okay, so in order to kill the enemy HQ, you need to kill at least two towers in one row, meaning one lane needs to lose 2 towers, so the HQ loses its please don't attack me, I'm a virgin, and you can start shooting at it and eventually win the game too. Further secondary objectives on the map which allow you to take those towers down are Drake on the very top side of the map, this big red dot, who you can kill, reprogram, and then he walks through the middle lane and pushes hard into the enemy base. That's one of the secondary objectives. Another secondary objective is to capture those drones. Top lane has 2 green dots, which is the artillery drones, which will do heavy damage to an enemy tower out of his range. So that's really awesome. They really take them. If you want to push the lane, you have the 2 red dots in mid lane, or at least a little bit beneath mid lane, with the tank drones who can soak up a lot of damage and push therefore with you into the enemy base again. And you have 2 artillery drones on the very bottom. Next secondary objectives are watchtowers on the map. They are quite important because they will give you insight about enemy movement towards drones and between the lanes. Very important that those are as much as possible tagged for your team. They give you a lot of map control, and map control is really important in any Moba, but especially in Shards of War, because everything is so fast paced and you can make decisions only if you have as much information as you can have for it. So keep them on your side. Next objective on the map is medkits. Those are already like third, not secondary, but secondary B, I don't know how to say it, objectives on the map, because they will regenerate in an AoE radius the health of your team, which gives you good sustain, and the less downtime you have with your sentinels, the more you can do and the more action you can perform before you need to take a breath. This is really important too in Shards of War. And last but not least, we have those healing circuits behind enemy towers. Those aren't really objectives because you can't really capture them, you can't do anything, they're just there as long as the tower in front of them is still active, but there's something you need to keep in mind in order to make the right decision in the heat of a battle. Oh, and last but not least, we have of course a smoke on the map where you can hide in, and effectively the enemy won't have any vision on you. These are the things, the most important objectives on the map. Let me think shortly. Yes, pretty much. So we figured already out the top lane is very close to Drake. We figured out that mid lane is kind of very central and has access to both lanes, has access to top artillery drones, tank drones, medkits, and the watchtower in, well, equally to both watchtowers has a good access, and bot lane has a good access to artillery, bottom watchtower, and tank drone. Therefore, because mid lane is already from the idea quite central, you need to have definitely mid lane is a very important lane in the game around any strategy which you can take. Okay, so when you're heading into a game with your people or with pub players, One of the first things which you should have in mind is that experience is collected globally. And experience is collected from every lane. Like meaning in the moment there are little neutral androids from your team, or neutral but from your team and from an enemy team, as they're dishing it out and they're starting to die, there is experience to be harvested. This is really important. If you're just clashing 5 people in mid, you will miss all the experience on top and on bot lane. And in order to win a game, you always want to build up an advantage, specifically an XP advantage, because there is no gold in Shards of War, so there is only XP. You want to build an advantage as an experience gap between you and the enemy team as much as possible, because 1 or 2 level difference means a lot already. Just imagine a team fight which starts between a level 6 team and a level 5 team. The level 6 team has so much more advantage because they have their ultimates already than a 5 team, that it's most likely this team fight will be won by the level 6 team. And of course you want to reach the higher level faster than the enemy team. So this is keeping this in mind, meaning that every lane needs to have at least 1 sentinel. Top lane, mid lane, bot lane needs to have at least 1 sentinel every time there are minions dying. So this is the first step for any strategy you're doing. Of course you can try very cheesy strategies that you're saying, okay, we screw this XP, we're going completely coordinated, we're just pushing through, we're killing one tower after another, we have tanks, we have supporters, we're keeping our team alive, and we're just going before they know what happens, we're in, you know, and they were like, oh, you're in, through the back door. No, they will be more like, oh no. Okay, let's skip it. But if you're playing pub games, you kind of like, coordination isn't really, you can't have coordination like that. And maybe on a really high level play, everyone knows what to do and you don't need to think anymore, you're just following your team as a unit, you know, there's no INT, and it works out. But on the normal play, it won't work out. Therefore, every lane should have 1 sentinel at least. Now, the way the map is designed, is the top lane in the early stage of the game has the minor impact than, for example, mid lane or bot lane. The reason behind this, Drake is in the early stages of the game not important. However, you want to have the top lane as intact as possible till the later stages of the game when Drake becomes interesting. Meaning that if your tower is gone, it is so much harder to take Drake on top lane or to defend the enemy team from taking it than with a tower. Meaning that you have still the healing circle, you have something you can fall back to which does damage to enemy champions. So protect your top lane. Of course you want to protect your mid lane as well, because mid lane has access to all major points on the map. Bot lane again has access to the both artillery drones and tank drones and the watchtower, so it's important too. So all lanes are important. There's nothing which is not that important. Therefore, this information or this thinking leads me to the way that, well, mid lane is kind of most central and most important, because you reach everything from mid lane. So my team constellation currently is 1-3-1. This is what I like to play. This is what I play with my people who join the stream and who want to join the games with me, and it works very efficiently. What would work as well is 1-2-2, I believe, or even 2-2-1, but I think 2-1-2-2 is a better option, because then you can push bot lane more aggressively and take the lane very fast. However, I prefer 1-3-1 because it gives you the most options. With this constellation, it's very easy to control all central druids from mid lane. You have a very easy access to all lanes, meaning you can set up a gank if a lane is pushed and backstab them or flank them into their back and have a good advantage for it. And of course you can create a lot of pressure, because mid lane pushing into mid lane is kind of like very central, and if mid lane falls, you're opening very nice access to the enemy jungle, so they won't have so much security moving around the map. So we figured out we want to have 1-3-1 lanes. Now the question is what kind of sentinels we want to take. Currently I'm not focusing too much on which champions I have in my loadout. The champion pool is still quite limited and we have kind of balanced champion pool, so I'm just taking whoever wants to play whatever they want, because it is kind of working so far. In general speaking, however, I would advise certain champion types, archetypes on specific lanes in order to make it a little bit easier to actually push forward. This is of course more for teams who are pre-mates and not necessarily for pub games. What I like to have is on top and bottom kind of heroes who are okay pushers, who can push the lane in acceptable amount, can escape enemy ganks, and have in general some survivability. What I like to put is, for example, striker top or bot lane. This is both kind of okay. I like to have Vulcan on one of those solo lanes. Warhead is a good candidate for one of those solo lanes. Gemini is a good candidate for one of those solo lanes. Ryu, definitely solo character. Who did I miss? Zell is a good character, although I prefer Zell in mid lane. She can actually do there more, but she's a possibility. Yeah, those are like, I feel like more or less the strongest choices, but technically every character could be played solo, but I feel like those are a little bit more stronger choices than everyone else. Now in mid lane, we need to put, I like to put Assassin. This is kind of something which I really appreciate, like a burst character, because those kind of characters have a very easy access to top and bot lane, and they can set up a gank like a Roma. So Cobra in mid lane is something I really like. Blitz will work very well in this regard too, but of course any other character which you play this way with a mobility tag, or which you play on mobility, or which you play in general very good, will be sufficient. However, it is important for mid lane to have a team constellation of 3 heroes which is able to take drones in the jungle rather easily. So for example Gemini and Striker, or Gemini and Zell is kind of cool in mid lane, and also Porter and DPS. It is important for mid lane to have a character which can clear out a minion wave rather easily. So putting 3 tanks in a mid lane can cause some trouble, because if they have DPS like Vulcan, Striker and Zell, they will kind of push the lane into the tower. And of course also it is not that important that the tower stays at 100% till the end of the game. It kind of is important that it doesn't take too much damage in the very first minutes. If you have a situation that you have 3 people, you're playing the 1-3-1 setup in a game, and you have 3 people in mid lane, but you're facing 5 people against you, you have a disadvantage in the beginning. So after 2, 3, 4 minutes, the XP gain from the other lanes will start kicking in, and you will start heading away. Meaning that at one point you will be 2 levels ahead, and you can easily take with the 3 people, this 5 people on, if you play it correctly. However, in the beginning you have pros. So if they manage to push into the tower constantly with a high DPS, a high burst and whatever they're having, and you have pros to kill off the enemy drones which are pushing into your tower, then you start getting a problem, and the tower will start this tower will start losing HP, and you will lose it earlier than the advantage of XP will kick in, and yeah, you won't get an advantage from it. So in mid lane there needs to be characters which can deal with enemy pressure, and which can deal with a bigger minion wave. Zell, for example, is really cool for this. You can, and everyone else who helps. So at least 1 DPS kind of character should be in mid lane, and yeah, and then you should be fine. So don't take too much damage, just hide behind your tower, but don't allow the tower to take too much damage, just push the lane back, and yeah, it should work out. In the moment the other lanes start pushing into their tower, most likely they will start running around, getting panicked that they're losing towers, and they will switch. In this moment you can start pushing mid tower, and from this snowball, basically keeping pressure on your enemy, and this basically will snowball into an advantage, into a lead, and hopefully into a successfully victory in this game. So I think this is about the current meta, and meta is basically what works best in this game, and I feel like this works really good compared to how the map is designed. First, basic strategies about how to play this game, Hopefully you like this video. If you like this video, please follow and subscribe to the channel, so I know that you guys want more content, Shards of War content, of course, more strategies, and I have already some good ideas for future videos, what else we need to discuss and have a light on and think about it and stuff. I'm Id3ntyD, thanks for watching, and